Good day, podcast community. Yes, we got a special guest on the show for a Hokie. For those that don't know what a Hokie is, well, it's not anything, but it's you go to Virginia Tech, in Blacksburg, Virginia. So my Virginia Tech people will know it. So they'll be glad to hear from our guests. So Craig and I met and we had a good conversation before, and I wanted him to really come on our show to help people to get to know him. So, Craig, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
Sure, appreciate it. So, I am a Virginia Tech grad to start. Someone asked me the other day what a Hokie is, and the correct answer is you're supposed to say I am. So I am, and from New Jersey, and moved back after college. And I am a writer and LinkedIn consultant. I write profiles for people, mainly business owners, salespeople, and people in career transition who are looking to market themselves and either change careers, change jobs, and they might not be sure how to market themselves.
It's beautiful. My brother, who's a Hokie, and he was a couple years ahead of me. Always, he had he had a pharmaceutical recruiting business, and he always talked about words matter and how we present ourselves, because potential employers are going to look you up. That's just a fact of life. So what would you say, like, as we're into the digital age, and I have a lot of people that I run into, and I'll say, do you have a LinkedIn profile? And they go, not yet. So what would you say to those people that tell you, I'm not on LinkedIn yet? How would you share with them what you have seen in your work and the importance of having a profile on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is, what are you waiting for? Politely.
Yes.
And I would say that over 90% of recruiters are on there. And it's one of the first things people search. They Google you, or now with any of the AI programs, ChatGPT and all the others, and then they look you up on LinkedIn. So if you're not on there, then it's kind of like, does this guy exist, or is he hiding? Is she hiding? So that's kind of.
I love it. I love that answer. And I want our viewers to kind of dial in on that, because if I meet Craig at an event, I'm going to search him. And if I don't find anything on him, the journey's over. So if you're trying to get your name out there and you don't allow people to go on a journey with you and find information to get to know you, you might as well be invisible. So what gave you like the whole focus on writing? Let's go back to, did you go to Virginia Tech, and was it a degree in what got you interested in writing?
Yeah, it was kind of a long and winding road. So I ultimately studied human resource management, got my degree in that, and then figured I didn't want to pursue that, and had a number of jobs, PR, insurance. Got my first sales role. I was one of the annoying people at Home Depot who asked people if they're interested in home solar. Data center space, trucking logistics. I worked at a copier agency, and then got laid off in the pandemic, and ultimately started helping friends with LinkedIn, resumes, cover letter, that type of thing. Put more of a focus on B2B after a while, and realized obviously that just about every business needs help going from where they are to where they want to be, growing their business. And the tools are always changing, the tactics are always changing. So that keeps it interesting. Obviously, Google and SEO is changing all the time. And so it's interesting keeping up with that and what makes sense, and learning about people's businesses, how they're different. Obviously, some are more local oriented. They get most of their business in a 10 or 20 mile radius, and some people can work with anyone on the planet. So it's just considering the factors and people's budgets and timelines and everything, and working with them to figure out what steps they should take and options to consider given their circumstances.
Must have been a seed planted at Virginia Tech, because my brother, if he was on, he would say the same thing about just the importance of communicating a resume and doing it professionally, because it's a profile of who you are. He was telling me this past weekend that he's remodeling his kitchen, and through a person who knew a person who he had written a resume 15 years ago, reconnected, because he was helping them really get that process down. It's like when I see people that don't even have a picture on LinkedIn, I don't even think they're valid, because if you can't even have a picture on your LinkedIn profile, how do you expect to be connecting to people? But
Yeah,
it was that favor he did for a person through a person that wanted their resume, fine tuned. He did it. And 12 years later, it comes back to kind of like he planted that seed for that person, and that seed grew. And you never know when things can circle around. Why did you decide to go to Virginia Tech?
I had he's now my cousin's husband. So my
Hmm.
cousin went to UVA, which is
Hmm.
our big rival,
Yep.
and he went to Tech. And my cousin used to visit him at Tech, and they would both speak highly about it. So I visited junior year of high school and really liked it. Went to the top of my list, and then thankfully I got in. So
Yeah.
that's how it happened.
Yeah, it's so much to like. I tried to get my oldest to come up there, and the day we visited the campus, it was cold, it was raining, and
Yeah,
so it wasn't the best first impression. She ended up going to Auburn, but it was and she visited Clemson too, but it was just totally different experience. If you're going to Virginia Tech, you do. I don't think you do a campus visit in the middle of summer. I mean, the middle of winter, and
yeah.
walk across that drill field. It's not going to impress you because
Yeah, if that's your one visit, that's a
yeah.
tough sell in the middle of winter, unless you like that.
So when you were up there, like, did it take a while for you to get your footing on what you really enjoy doing, as far as what where you are right now?
Well, it took me years after that, of course, because ultimately, I took a long path. So, I
Hmm.
mean, I think it's something, and I appreciate hearing your opinion that what you're interested in at 20 might not be what you're interested in at 30, 40, 50, and so on. So,
I think Jay Abraham, who I like his stuff and have read a bunch of his books, he made a comment that stuck with me for years: is when you're young, have as much uh, get as many jobs as you possibly can, because the more experience you get, the more perspective of things, the better. So you don't know at 20 what you want to do, but you gotta try things. You gotta always get out there. And then through trying different things, you find out really what really, you know, opens up your mind, your heart, everything. But if you don't do things, you have no idea. What would you say, like today? We got AI out here. It's coming like a freight train. And I do all my writing on AI because I'm dyslexic. So writing was never my friend until technology started to give me the voice to text. But now all my courses are done, the framework of them. They don't do all of it, but they do 80%. How do you see AI impacting your industry? And what would you share with our viewers, what they need to be aware of?
yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on it. I do keep up a bit. I read the AI report in the morning and listen to some podcasts and keep aware of what's going on. I mean, the impact has already been happening, obviously, especially since, well, this year it's felt like it's picked up, and obviously ChatGPT came out late 2022. So, I mean, marketing, writing, it's hit everything, and sometimes it can replace certain activities, and sometimes it can enhance it, and sometimes it can make certain things worse. So it's I think obviously I went through school where it wasn't as widespread, and obviously we didn't have ChatGPT when I was in school. So it's good to have like certain skills and be able to do writing and outlining the old-fashioned way, and it's good to have that. But it's also good, of course, to stay up to date with what's going on and keep aware of the changes that are happening and be able to use some of the tools. And if you can't do it, and if you're not great at certain things, then obviously you can reach out and find people who are better at it, because they'll do a better job and in a faster way than you would be able to.
Yeah, it's good. It's my partner who probably about 2.5, 3 years ago, he's a very smart guy. And he would kept telling me, Peter, you using AI with your business and how much you using it. And I said, I don't have time for it. I'm podcasting. And I was having a good time. But then my first course that I did on goals, habits, and goals, habits, and goals. I'm drawing a blank.
Beliefs?
Go say it again.
Beliefs?
Well, close. It's like goals. Wait, I'm going to get this thing down because it was my first course and I don't even remember it. Goals, habits, and there's another word. I'll come back to it. Well, anyway, so being dyslexic, writing was never really my thing. And I'm using Alexa, I'm using Siri, I'm using all the artificial to give me spellings on words and different meanings. But anyway, I said, give me a course that reflects this, 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 and put this in it. And I got the most amazing framework I've ever seen. I literally almost fell out of my chair. I was amazed that it would have taken me 6 months to do something like that. Now, I had to put the course together, audio, and I did some more prompts on it to really refine it. But it was at that moment that the light bulb went off, and I saw the time saving in it. And I was just listening. I do podcasts. I listen to podcasts too. I was listening to this guy. I'd never heard him before, but he was talking about Grok 4 coming out July 4th. And what Elon Musk is doing is he wants to tie in X with his Grok. So a lot of the AI is everything backwards. So forward thinking, still, we need to be still tiled into that. But if you can get the most current information that's trending and it's coming from Twitter or X, and that can be combined with the power of it. I mean, it said it's gonna separate them from a lot of the other ones, especially ChatGPT that most everybody uses. So the space is changing so rapidly. It gets to the point where it's moving. It's moving. What would you say, like with the speed of business? How do you set your day up? Like do you have a habit? Do you have a way that you have gotten into a flow that you could share with our viewers that's worked for you?
Yeah. And it does evolve a little bit. So generally, and I forget where I learned this, and we talked briefly about the book that was behind you, Buy Back Your Time. But I think I learned, whoever it was, that they generally set up their meetings in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm flexible. I generally try and set them up in the afternoon, evening sometimes, especially if it's like a career type client and they have a 9 to 5 job and they want to meet at 7 or 8 o'clock. I can do that. Or different time zones, being on the East Coast, sometimes people on the West Coast or someone in Europe, Asia, what have you. If I meet them through networking or referral, then got to be flexible there. And then the mornings I generally use for follow up, sometimes client work, people, prospects, admin work, exercise, and then the afternoons I generally have my meetings. And obviously, right now it's 5 o'clock on the East Coast, so here we are, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I do a lot of podcasts, and you have a Calendly link, and I'm surprised at the number of people that go back and forth like, hey, we're going to meet at 2 o'clock. No, I can't do 2 o'clock. I can do 3. And it was Dan Martell that really, probably a couple years ago, kind of planted that seed that our time is, if you're wasting time on activities that could be automated, and Calendly is obviously automated because you decide when you're going to do whatever you want that person to do. So if they go to your Calendly link, it's based on your calendar. So you can manage your time so much more effectively. So I know that was one of the things that Dan Martell impressed upon me. I want you to comment on this. I read something that he knew Elon Musk really well, and they were asking him, how do you run all these companies, and you do so much? And he said his meetings are 5 minutes, and we always lock into predictable things that we've done in the past. Most of my people, it's like, oh, I have an hour meeting, and they block off an hour. Of course they're going to use it, but he schedules the 5 minutes, and he's always wanting to solve the problem wherever he is. And he's noted to walk out of the meeting if there's nothing getting done. How do you protect your time that you like? I love that you have a Calendly. Share
Yeah.
with our viewers what is the book is a great one by Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. How do you protect your time that our viewers might be able to benefit from your sharing with us?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a work in progress. I would say that, as far as the Calendly, I set it maybe about once a week. If I book something and it's not connected to, Calendly, sometimes if someone else has a Calendly and I book on there, I think it adjusts on mine that it takes away that time. But if I set it on another calendar, then I need to do that. And and if I had a virtual assistant, then they could do that. But riding solo at the point at the moment. But I would say that, yeah, and what you said reminds me of Parkinson's law, that work will expand to the time allotted to it. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So I would say that, to go back to the book, blocking your time, not switching tasks as much as possible, because as people, we're generally bad at that. Some are better than others, but I'm probably below average at that.
Mhm.
And so having meetings in the afternoon, certain admin at a certain time, having a time for follow up, having a time for client work, and what have you. And then if you can delegate certain responsibilities, and that allows you to, as Dan would say, buy back your time. So, and I'd appreciate hearing your opinion and what you've learned in your career on this as
Yeah,
well.
that's a good question because being ADD and dyslexic, I always overschedule,
Hmm.
and I would like not prioritize properly my day. And so I get to the end of the day and I had some stuff checked off, but then I look at this one activity. It was the most important thing that I had to do that day, but I didn't do it because I was just looking for the dopamine hit or something like that. So what I do every single day, I get up, I get up real early, usually 3:30, and for the first 5 hours, I think, I journal, and then I plan and implement. So I spend an enormous amount of time thinking. And when I implemented that, and I journaled in the past, but it was only because I'd hit a tough spot. You know, you're overwhelmed. I was always getting overwhelmed with my work, and they call it getting freeze. You know, you get so much work, you don't even know what to do. But I found myself journaling when people could say, "Hey, do a gratification journal or gratify," and I do it because I was in a tough spot. But after my stroke, I started journaling every single day. And what I found, it was just my thoughts got out of my head because we have 12 to 60,000 thoughts that go through our head. So when I'm thinking, there's notes, there's no music, there's nothing. And all I do is think. And I remember John Maxwell wrote a book, something like The Art of Thinking, or something that it was because we're in the average. I think back in 1998, our attention span was 17 minutes. Now it's 7 seconds.
Wow.
You know, when you look at TikTok, I mean, you look at the way our attention has been really programmed. And because I had to rewire my brain, I was more dialed in to getting that back. But the journaling for me has enabled me to get incredible focus, to develop my writing. If you looked at my journals today, it would be a totally different person because my old journals, I couldn't spell worth a lick. So I what and it was basic words, but they just don't compute like a lot of people. But my thinking ability is off the chain because I'm exercising the journaling after that. And then I just plan my day and implement. And so my routine is the same thing over and over again. But I just came from PT, and we talked briefly before that. The girl that one of the assistants, she has ADD, and we were talking about productivity. And so she was talking that very thing is we have an active brain, but we got to put boundaries on it. And if we don't, we'll sit there and just do nothing because we're just like dreaming, but not implementing. So I was telling her about my habit, and she was like, we were just discussing, you know, that she would spend for study and she would study for 7 hours straight. Well, the brain doesn't work that well because once you just wear down your brain, if you don't give it breaks to reset, then it just the old grind. You know how you did at Virginia Tech? It was those all nighters, you know, because you had to crunch for a test. But it doesn't. That has been proven not to be as effective. Do you take breaks during the day, or like you're obviously in front of a computer at
Yeah.
times? So how do you break up your day to give you the most energy and the most productivity throughout the day? Do you have a system or anything that you could share with our viewers?
I don't have anything specific. I mean, sometimes it's like if I have a meeting at 1, a meeting at 2, and today my 1 o'clock went long, so it was like, okay, I got to go. And then maybe a couple minutes later, I jumped on the call. So, but usually if I have a 1 and a 2, the 1 we'll cut it at 1:30. So then I'll get up, stretch, maybe have a quick bite to eat, brush my teeth, and then go to the next one.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, to your point, I know that I need to get up and move and maybe get something to eat to, you know, be high functioning later on in the day.
What would you share like when you're not working? What do you like to do to unwind, or is there anything recreational or anything you do that kind of like uh, gives you a kickstart? Because we all, if what do they say? All work, no play makes a person boring, or something
That
like that.
makes Jack a dull boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What do you
So,
do to break up
well,
the monotony?
I wake up and I do Wordle and Spanish Wordle every day. I send it to my girlfriend. She sends me the results of hers. And then I try to go for a walk in the morning by 8 to 9. Sometimes I don't get out of bed in time, and then that gets pushed. So I need to do a better job of that. So as you can see, I'm a work in progress, not an expert on this, but ideally it would be exercise, shower, eat, brush my teeth, and then get to work, do the follow-up admin, and then more meetings in the afternoon, evening, and then maybe a little admin at night, any follow-up I have to do or something like that.
Hmm.
Some client work, so on, depending on what it is and where I'm at.
It's good. We're all work in progress. We don't have it all figured out. I think if we're I like to think that I just want to get a little bit better each day. But I think about like last year versus this year, I've seen so many improvements because I just had that mindset of, oh, I know, it's mindset, goals, and habits was a three thing.
Okay.
So I just trying to improve by reading, by listening to podcasts, getting ideas, implementing those ideas. Where do you find that you get your best ideas from? Is it books, podcast, or a combination of both?
Probably that's a good idea. Maybe just going for a walk. And sometimes I do listen to podcasts like
Hmm.
Founders or Alex Hermosi or business marketing, AI, so on. Uh, just walking around sometimes where your mind's blank and you're not trying to think of anything. But if you have like give your mind a problem and then let it sit, and then sometimes something will come to you. Your subconscious works on it or something. And yeah, you never know when lightning can strike.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was a social runner. I don't run today. I bike, but not stationary bike. I because I used to play golf 5 days a week and I'd run. I was just and when I was running, I was thinking, I was always like, you're outdoors, you can take in so much. And I would, put the ideas on the phone. But it was amazing when you're kind of in that zone, how the ideas flow.
Yeah.
Do you have any books that you could recommend or share with our viewers that have had a big impact on your personal growth?
Uh, Business books or
Yeah,
general?
in general. I mean, it's things that would make you better at what you do. I like the word. The word is it Wordle?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people do it, but because it's not my thing, I never did it. But everybody say, "You do a Wordle?" I said, "No," but I see the popularity. Is there any
Yeah.
book that that you felt really made an impact?
Yeah. So buy back your time. I read it twice to retain more.
Hmm.
$100 million offers by Alex Hermosi. $100 million leads. I need to buy it, the physical version. I've watched the videos and listened to the podcast episodes.
Hmm.
What else? I remember a number of years ago, someone like a sales trainer said in a comment that he gives a copy of Jeffrey Gitomer's Little Red Book of Selling to all his salespeople. So I picked up a copy of that, read that, and I've read a number of his books. Jeb Blunt, also a sales guy.
Hmm.
I think her name's Brittany Hodak. Um, I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank now on the name of her book, so I feel bad. But it's all about like loving your customers and treating them like all stars. And
Yeah.
um, who else? I mean, the classics: Think and Grow Rich
Yeah.
and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now I'm reminding myself I haven't read those in a while. What about you? What are your favorites?
I how to win friends and influence people. Buy back your time. Um, I've listened to a lot of podcasts. Patrick Bet David, and he has know your. Let me think. I'm trying to look and see. Know your enemies or something, and it's not like what I thought. It's a business strategy book. Let me see what it is. It's a red book, and I just rearranged. Seth Godin, I love.
Yeah.
I just think he's a deep thinker. I have his most recent book, This is Strategy. Oh, I can read them. High Performance Habits by Brendan Bouchard. I mean, there's 5 habits. I mean, it's basically proven, clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and the last one is influence. And so he's zeroed in on those 5 habits. It's everything I do now is focus on those habits. So I like that. And you know who came on my radar? It was from a podcast. And the gentleman, I mean, he had an unbelievable story and just, I mean, rocked it. And I had asked him before the podcast, I said, how do people want to reach out? How do people reach out to you? And he goes, well, I have a newsletter and I have an assessment. I said, oh, really? And I'd heard about assessments before. So anyway, after the podcast, after I heard his story, I went, how'd you find me? He goes, I don't know. I have a team and I was going like, man, I'm so glad. But anyway, he did this. The assessment was Daniel Priestley. And Daniel Priestley wrote 5 books, but the big one, Person of Influence.
Right.
And it's 7-11-4. And his assessment, I'd been hearing about it, I'd listened to him, but once Christian told me about that, I took the assessment and I went, so that's what it is. And I geeked out on him after that and just kept listening to him. I probably listened to 10,000 hours of the guy. I geeked out on him just because he has a simple formula. If we have 150 people, you have to break through that digitally. So people have to, when we were talking about, when they search you, you're taking them on a journey, or they have to go on a journey with you. So 7 hours is what the brain is dialed in, 7-11-4. And then he goes, pitch was the first P, and then it was product, then it was presentation, partnership, and in there was profile right before pitch. But it was just a simple formula that he had because the world's changed and it's all digital now.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking, you're up in Jersey, I'm down in Atlanta. We met online, and I've known my partner for 10 years, and he's up in Canada. We've yet to meet each other.
Oh, wow.
I know his family. I know his wife. I know his kids. I know his habits. I know everything about him.
Yeah.
But we haven't physically, because COVID hit, it got all jacked up.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy. The past 5 years, like there's a number of people that I've met Zoom and spoke on the phone and everything. And like, I feel like I know them, but we've actually never met in person, which is
Isn't that crazy? I love it. So as we wind down, Craig, I want you to tell our viewers how, because if they want to get if they're interested in LinkedIn, they got to know the strategy. I mean, if you're just out there just playing around, you got to have a strategy. So how could people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my LinkedIn is linkedin.com/Craig Leonard, Leonard, VT is in Virginia Tech. My Calendly is calendly.com/Craig Leonard, and Craig is Craig Leonard. And website is Craig Thoughts, Craig thoughts.com.
Awesome. Man, I appreciate that. I love it when, you have something in common, and Virginia Tech was the one thing we had in common. I haven't had one person from Virginia Tech besides my brother on the show, but it was just that common link. And then we started talking, and I just enjoyed our conversation. So I appreciate you really sharing with our community your story. What would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
I mean, obviously it depends on context, but I'll say, and it's not groundbreaking, but obviously with everything changing so fast, we need to, if not, maybe keep up's not the right term, but obviously we need to keep learning and, keep being open to new ideas and new technologies and pay attention to others and what's going on and best practices and all the new knowledge that's being created every day.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. We're always learning and growing. And I tell you, the acceleration of our world with AI and all the things happening global, I mean, the opportunities, it really is. We're in some exciting times that the world is changing and we have to change with it because it's
Yeah,
not waiting on it,
yeah,
waiting
that's
on
true.
us for it. So thank you so much, Craig. I
Thank
want
you for having me, Pete.
to share this with people that you know that you think need to know Craig because we are all a community of people who look out for each other. We want people to know who and who a person is, and they can. You can schedule something with Craig and learn more about how he might be able to help you. So thanks so much, Craig. We appreciate you spending time with our community today.
Thank you for having me, Pete. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. Bye now.